Is the origin of a nation, whether it is the identity that you recognize your family having together, whether it is the idea of worshiping something together as a religious community will worship something together. That is what binds you together. There is a unitive thing which makes us even recognize that we exist as a community or even as a person, right? You have a single experience of the world, and that is what makes you know that you're one thing and not many things. And as you move out from that identity, you're able to realize that this identity is made out of multiple things. And that's a normal process, right? And so the United States is not one thing. The United States is one thing and many things at the same time. So there's a way in which we can explore the unity that binds us together, and we can also rejoice in the diversity which exists within that nation. And those things actually have to play with each other. There has to be a balance between those two. If we say something like diversity is our strength, which we've heard, my own prime minister say over and over again, now we have a problem, because diversity without unity is decomposition. That's actually what decomposition is. If you have diversity without something binding you together, how do you even have the thing itself? The thing just falls apart, right? Anything, if you drop an apple to the ground, it starts to lose its unity, and then the outside things, the worms, the bugs, everything starts to break it down into an incoherent mush. And so when we notice that there's an obsession with that which is strange, with that which doesn't fit, things that break the rules, things that mix identities together, we know that we are reaching the edge of something. And so one of the examples that we've seen is, for example, the obsession with the question of the border. Now, of course, conservatives usually fall on one side of that question. And they see that, how can we have all these people coming in to our country illegally without knowing who they are, without knowing what their story is? We have no sense of their identity. They are truly, in that sense, strangers. Now, a stranger is a category that has nothing to do with someone's race, or it just has to do with the fact that we don't know who they are. It is just the question of something which doesn't fit in our story, something that we don't know how to connect it to our story. So it's as true of a stranger that comes to the door of your house. Someone comes and knocks on the door. Does he want something good from you? Does he want to hurt you? You don't know yet. And so you approach tentatively and you try to figure out who the stranger is, what it is they want with you. And so the question on the border is the same. So on one side, people are obsessed with the idea of all this strangeness coming in from the outside and thinking, well, if all this strange comes in, at some point, we're going to cease to exist. But the other tendency can be a problem too, because when we're obsessed with the wall that separates the inside and the outside, that's also actually a sign that things aren't going well. Think of it again in terms of your family, for example. So imagine that you're so afraid of that which is outside that you want to close your family off completely. You want to create this impermeable wall around your identity, and so your children don't have access, don't learn how to deal with that which is strange, and will ultimately become something like allergic to that which is strange in a very bad way. And this is not just a metaphor, it's true even in terms of hygiene, right? If your kids don't have the chance to play outside and encounter strange things, encounter bugs, play in the dirt or whatever, then they will become allergic to the world around them. And they will become weaker for not having a healthy relationship with these bugs and this dirt. But if you see your kids eating the dirt, and if you see your kids eating the bugs, at some point you're gonna say, well, maybe here we've reached a limit. Like there's a limit of how it is that we engage with the strange. You can see the same with the stranger that comes to your door. If you want to understand the way a world lays itself out, let's say in terms of how identity relates to the margin, or that which is strange, or that which is unknown, think of a home as a basic image of the world, we could say. So a home is built as a hierarchy. This is necessarily so. You have their front porch on the outside of your home. And that's where strangers can come. And usually if they go there, there's no problem. They're standing on the front porch. And then if you recognize the stranger or you understand what it is that they want, maybe you'll open the door to them. And maybe you'll even let them into your entryway. And you can exchange with them at this place and it's okay. And now if you get to know them better and they become something like acquaintances, well, maybe you let them come into the house, maybe sit in your living room, have a discussion with them, and that hierarchy continues. So if you're close friends, you invite them to dinner, closer now into the space where you're actually eating together. But then there is a space, for example, your bedroom, which usually you won't even let your friends into your bedroom, at least not for a good reason. That's a space of intimacy. It's a space where you and your spouse find yourself in a very vulnerable and intimate moment, and where, let's say, the identity of your very family finds its origin as the bedroom of the married couple. That's where your kids come from. That's where the fact that you're even a family comes from, that intimate space. So as you can see, there's a hierarchy. There's this hierarchy of identity, you could say. And you can recognize the edge of that identity. And you can recognize that if you become obsessed with that edge too much, instead of knowing how to nurture that inner part, then your relationship with that which is strange is going to become problematic either way, on both sides of the question. And so that is one way to maybe understand what it is that I mean when I say we're reaching the edge. But that is true for the story of a nation as well. It is true for the story of anything which you can recognize as having an identity.